What is up, guys? My name is Mark Santamaria. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to RC Vlog. Today, guys, I'm going to do something y'all been asking for. I'm going to break in an engine. Just so you guys know, I know you guys request videos, and I know they don't come out really quick. My videos are about 2 to 3 weeks back. So that means this video I'm recording right now will probably publish in 2 to 3 weeks. I know that's kind of lame, and you kind of want to see the most like up-to-date stuff, but the reason why I do that is I don't know what work is going to do. My family, me and my wife, are infamous for taking last-minute vacations, so if that ever happens, I know for sure you guys have content, so sorry about that, but I am getting to everything. I know you guys have wanted a tire mounting video. I did want to do that. I might want to do that at the track, though. I think that'd be cool to do at the race, or at a race. But I know this video has been something you guys have really wanted, so I'm going to do it today. I did load that brand new motor in, or that brand new engine in my MB48.4. It's a Bullet B222. But before we begin, I'm going to tell you guys 3 rules when breaking in engines that are the most important rules during this entire process. And if any of these are overlooked, it could be really, really bad. And I feel like so long you stay within these 3 rules, there's a little bit of, how do I say this? There's a little bit of margin of error. The margin of error is bigger. Like if you mess up, it's going to be okay. But the very first rule is you want to make sure every time you kill the engine, it's at bottom dead center. So if you don't know what bottom dead center, you have the crankshaft that spins, and when the crankshaft spins, I'm charging my gold nutter, the piston goes up and down like this. Well, you don't ever want your engine to die and stay idle, or not stay idle, but just be dead with the piston on the top. So like let's say this is a sleeve, it's going up and down like this. You don't ever want it to stay on top. You always want it to be at the bottom. So the way you make sure it's at the bottom is you want to make sure you can spin the flywheel, and you can tell, like, so it stops whenever I turn all the way this way. So when I turn it this way, it stops. So I want to be right in the middle of that distance between it stopping. So basically that means that it's going up, and then whenever I spin it the other way, it's going down and back up. So I want to be right in the middle so it's all the way back down. So make sure your engine's always at bottom dead center when you kill your engine. That's probably one of, if not the most important thing when breaking an engine, or just in engines in general, especially when they're probably the first few gallons. You definitely want it to be at bottom dead center every time. And you'll actually see the pro guys do that. You'll see them, or most guys, experienced guys, I won't say pro guys, experienced guys do that. As soon as their car comes out of track, they make sure it's at bottom dead center. The second rule I will say is make sure during this process, it's always spitting either smoke or exhaust out of, or fuel out of the exhaust. I know that sounds weird, but this should be a messy process. Like every time I break in an engine, there's like a nitro fuel oil as far as I can see on the ground. That's because you want your engine to be properly lubricated. So your engine should be running fat whenever you break an engine in. If you stop seeing smoke and it's not spitting fuel, you might not see smoke because it's just coming out so slow, but you can tell that it's like spitting fuel out. And you can actually put your hand in front of the exhaust pipe and it should spit fuel out on your hand. That's okay. So long as it's spitting fuel or you see a really thick smoke, you're good to go. Just make sure that is always present whenever you're breaking an engine. You do have to get the engine temp up sometimes, so it might feel a little bit leaner, but at all times it should be spitting fuel. And the very last rule is every time you start the engine up, make sure that it's at least, these are things people can argue, but I like it at least 240 degrees. You want the engine hot whenever you start the engine up, because that way it doesn't have as much stress on the internal components. So one last thing before we begin, I'm going to caveat with this. There are several ways to break in an engine. Traxxas has their own way to break in an engine. A lot of pro drivers, a lot of drivers will have other ways to break in engines. Most of the things, all these break-in methods kind of do the same thing. They just don't, maybe they're not as thorough, or they're not explaining everything like I'm going to explain it. Right now there's this big trend with oil break-in, oil bath break-ins. I haven't done that yet, so I can't say anything about that yet. It seems like it makes sense to me. Like the oil's hot and it's running the motor in and it's a lot less stress. It seems really cool. Not that I wouldn't do it. I'm probably going to get one done, but even if I get one done, I'm probably going to do heat cycles as well. So there's a lot of things going on. I'm just going based on how I've broken engines over the past 12, 13 years that I've been running RC, and I get really, really good mileage out of my engines, or time out of my engines. I probably get between 9 and 12 gallons on a good OS motor. Granted, that's fairly high. You guys are probably some of y'all might call BS, but I get it. That's just what I get. Some people might even get more than that, but I think a normal lifespan is between that, like 9 and 12 gallons. And you'll start to see some things go wrong. Not really wrong, but you might have to start bumping out a little bit at 9 gallons. But anyways, there's that. I got all that out of the way. I'm waiting for everything to get done. I'm having my coffee. It's the morning time, my favorite time of the morning. I end up driving a Mustang for the first time today. If you guys follow me on Instagram, for the first time in like a month and a half. You guys follow me on Instagram, you see that. So make sure you go follow me on Instagram and Facebook. But without further ado, I will start the break-in process. All right, guys, so I got everything ready to start breaking her in. Got it all down here. I told you it's gonna be a messy process, so I try to put some cardboard down so it doesn't get all over my driveway. But I got my tuning driver, my glow plug igniter, everything's charged up. Got my heat gun, got my temp gun, got fuel. So let me touch up on fuel real quick. There's probably gonna be some people asking questions. Sorry, you guys can't see me when I have the stuff in the background. There's probably gonna be some questions on what fuel I run to break it in, or do I run a different fuel? I do not run a different fuel. I run the same fuel. To me, my personal opinion is, so long your fuel has a good oil content, which I'm really confident with VP PowerMaster. So I run for VP PowerMaster. It's 30% Pro Race. That's what I'm breaking it in with, and that's what I run with. So I don't have break-in fuel. I run the normal fuel. So this is actually, to me, the scariest part of the break-in, the initial crank up. There's actually 3 different things that can happen. The first thing, it can start up just fine and everything be perfectly cool. The second thing would be it starts up but doesn't idle, which in that case I will adjust the needles a little bit just to get it idling. A lot of times I'll just trim it out on my remote so it just opens up the carb a little more so we can idle. Or it does not crank up and it keeps getting stuck at top dead center. So getting stuck at top dead center basically means the piston's going up and it's got so much mechanical pinch it can't do anything. Like, there's not enough power to turn it. If it gets stuck at top dead center and the engine is completely like seized is a bad word. The engine completely stops. You have to get a flathead screwdriver and turn the flywheel the opposite direction so it pulls the piston back down. The reason why you want to do it in the opposite direction, because if you think about it, the piston's going up. Instead of powering all the way through it and trying to get it to go all the way up and back down, you want it to go up and then just straight back down where it came from. So I do have a flathead screwdriver sitting there just in case that happens. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And that should be it, guys. Let's see, there was something else. Oh, if it's hot outside, weather. So you want to break it in when it's hot outside because you want the temperature to be really, you want it to be hot. You don't want it to get too cold. You want it to be able to hold heat. If you're in a cold area, wrap the engine head with maybe a rag or something. Some people use a foam. Some people just put the engine warmer on it. Make sure the heat is inside the engine. In this case, it's like 80 degrees out here, so I'm not worried about it. And the last thing I will say is, there was one more thing I had to say. I totally forgot what it was. All right, so I remember what that last thing was. So in order to start the car for the first time, you definitely want, or just in general, whenever it's new, is you want the heat to be up. So for the very first time, I want fuel in the engine when I start it up. So you're gonna see me prime it by putting a fuel line into the gas tank to push fuel in. The way you do that is you just, in the return line, the line that goes from your exhaust into your fuel tank, unplug it from your fuel tank, put a piece of fuel hose in there, and then blow in it. But when you blow in it, make sure the carb is open and it will shoot fuel in there. You want fuel in there when it first starts up because that's what keeps it all lubricated. So you're gonna see me do that sometimes. That's me priming it. The traditional way to prime it is just to plug the exhaust pipe and turn it over. In this case, because it's new, I want fuel in there before I turn it over. The very first step, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to fire it up and I'm going to let it idle 2 tanks. What that's going to do is it's going to get fuel and oil into all the mechanisms inside. It's just going to get it to run in. It's not building up a lot of heat, but it's just going to get it to run in. So I'm going to idle 2 tanks. A lot of people idle 1 tank. I'm going to idle 2 tanks. So here we go. Cross your fingers, guys. Hopefully this doesn't go bad for the first startup. I'm gonna go ahead and prime it. Get fuel in it, and then we'll try to start it up. I'll heat it up again right before I... Alright, fuel in it. 20. Really? Oh, that's just great. Now my starter box isn't turning on. Really? These things happen, guys. That's what it is. Hold on, let me go get my starter box working. It's working out. Get the heat back up because it probably cooled down a little bit whenever we did that. It's already at bottom. So that's what I'm talking about. See, that was what I didn't want to happen. It's already doing it again. Might be the belt on my starter box is too old. Turned a couple of times that time. So we just got to get a little bit hotter. That scared me. All right, so we got it running. Sorry if it's too loud. I'm glad that actually happened because you guys can see how to deal with it. So basically what happened is the engine wasn't hot enough, so it was getting stuck at top center. And when it was getting stuck at top center, I was having to, again, screwdriver it back reverse way and get it free again. It's gonna be hard on your starter box. I mean, there's so much mechanical pinch on these engines that your starter box is gonna have to work really hard. You could hear my starter box belt kind of skipping teeth. Got it started up though, right in front of you guys. You got to see it all go through or go down. I'm actually happy it happened that way again. I did see some shavings on my starter box wheel, but I'm going to show you guys that you can already see fuel coming out, so you know that it's rich. Again, you won't be able to see the smoke, but you can see fuel. Look. All those little dots, that's all fuel getting spewed out. So I actually don't like how much fuel is getting spewed. It's not that I don't like how much fuel is getting spewed out of the car, I just don't like it all over my driveway, but what you gotta do, I guess, huh? So it's going, it's running. I'm gonna let it idle a couple tanks, let it cool all the way down, make sure it's at bottom dead center. And then we're gonna start heat cycles, and I'll explain what heat cycles are. So we're gonna let this go for 2 tanks. And I'm not even gonna kill it. Hopefully it doesn't die. If I do it quick, I can fill the fuel tank up before it even dies, and it will just continue to go. So I did end up trimming my remote to hold the throttle open just a little bit. I'll probably play with it. It seems like it's idling a little high for braking, so I might trim it down just a little bit, just enough to keep it running without dying. So let's wait. It's just a waiting game now. You got to be patient when you're braking engines. All right, so look, you can see how much fuel is actually coming out of this thing. Look at how much is hitting that board whenever I put it up. So fuel will be spraying out of this thing. You don't see a lot of smoke, but that's how you know you're doing it right, because you want that lubrication in the engine. So that's healthy. That's not going to hurt it. There's enough oil in there. You want it to spew fuel. So I ghetto-fied something so the fuel doesn't get everywhere. It's just gonna stay on that box. I covered up the exhaust. It's on the second tank right now. You want to make sure it doesn't run out of fuel. So I'm just kind of, if you hear it start to go up in RPM, that means it's getting low on fuel and you want to fuel it back up. So we're looking good right now. the idle tanks are complete. This is how you know that you've done an okay job, because there's a lot of fuel. Look at all this fuel. That all came out of the exhaust, so what that's telling us is that there was a lot of lubrication in the engine, so it's okay. So we've idled 2 tanks, actually idled a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie. There was a little hiccup there in the middle whenever I went to go fuel it up, trying to get that other second tank idled up. It did die. A lot of times when you open the tank, it loses that back pressure, so it did die. And I couldn't just start it right back up, because when it's idling, it's not really getting at a high temperature. So I ended up having to heat the engine back up and get it started back up, but I got it started back up just fine, just like I started the first time. If it ever gets stuck at top center, again, you just loosen it up, heat it up really hot, and then it should turn right over, and then you can start idling again. So I've got the tanks idled. I'm gonna put it inside for a little bit. When I say inside, put it in the garage. I'm gonna let it cool all the way down, all the way back to regular room temp. And then I'm gonna come out here and start doing heat cycles. I'll explain what heat cycles are when we start to, you know, start that process. All right, I got this strapped to my head. So the last phase of this break-in is we're gonna do what they call heat cycles. So what heat cycles does is it gets the engine temp really high, and then it cools. You want to cool it all the way down, and basically what it does, it gets it high, cools it down, gets it high, cools it down. It hardens the sleeve, so hardens the piston, hardens the sleeve, so it ends up, I mean, that's really just how you break it in. That's the best, to me, that's what I've found is the best way to break it in. So most people do 3 heat cycles. What I've been told is to do 3 heat cycles. I do 4. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do 1 heat cycle today. Again, the most important part of those 3 things, make sure it's at bottom dead center, make sure it's spitting fuel, and make sure it's hot when you start it. So we're gonna get that started. I'm gonna do 1 heat cycle today. So I'm gonna get it started. I'm gonna have to get it all the way up to temp. I put a wrap on the head because I want the temp to go up high. I am gonna lean it out a little bit on top. I already know that it's too rich because it's spitting fuel like crazy. So I'm gonna lean it out. Again, it's okay to lean it out to get temperature, but you wanna make sure it's always spitting fuel or smoke. So I'm gonna lean it out a little bit. So to kind of debunk some of these things, and maybe someone's gonna try to argue this, I don't really think about how much fuel I'm putting into it. I think about how many heat cycles I get through it. So if I can get a heat cycle with 1 tank of gas or half tank gas, I'm cool with that. So I'm gonna do 1 heat cycle today. I'm gonna get it up to about 240, maybe even 250 degrees. And then I'm gonna let it cool all the way down, and then maybe do another couple of heat cycles tomorrow. I'm not gonna do them all today because I got some stuff to do today, but I'll be able to get through 1 heat cycle today. I think the scary part's already done, the initial startup of the car. So let's do this. I got y'all strapped to my head. Hopefully you can see everything. Hopefully I got it angled right. But we're gonna get this thing started up and do some heat cycles. Alright guys, that was a heat cycle. So you guys see what I did there is I got the car where it would bring, like the temp would go up, and I just drove it. I didn't go more than half throttle, maybe a little more than half throttle, just up and down the street, not even the street, just in like a little circle until the temp got up. So as you can see, I was definitely leaning out the top end. Again, it's okay to lean out the top end. A lot of people think, oh no, you need the fuel, you need the fuel. Yeah, you do need the fuel, but so long as it's spitting fuel out and smoke, as you can see on those circles, it was spitting fuel and smoke, no problem. You're okay. So I was leaning it out so it could build temp. It built temp, and then I got it to about 260. So let me be perfectly clear. Whenever I'm heating up the car with the heat gun on the box is not the same as actually getting the engine up to temp. When you're heating it up, yeah, it might read 220, 240 when you hit the motor, but that's because you're heating it up from the outside. Whenever you have it running for a while and you get up to 260, that's like the internal temp of the motor. So that's where you want to be. I got it up to about 262. That's not bad. I got it 262, and now I'm going to let it cool all the way down. I got to make sure it's at bottom dead center, which I did. It's really bad if it's at top, if you left it at top, and then it basically, whenever it cools down, it starts to shrink, and it will shrink with the piston on top. That's bad. You want to make sure it's at bottom dead. Again, that's rule number 1. It's at bottom dead center. And I'm just going to let it cool. So maybe I'll do another heat cycle today. My starter box does not really like the brand new motor, but I might have to get a new belt on my starter box or tighten it or something. But anyways, went to 262. I'm going to let it cool all the way down. When I say cool all the way down, I'm talking like cool all the way down. And then I'll probably do another heat cycle. I'm going to do that 4 times. And then after I do it 4 times, I can actually tune it. And then you can start running on the track. So that is an engine break-in. What you're going to see out of your car whenever you break your engine in is probably maybe after the first gallon, they say this is such a bad term, but they say the balls have dropped on your engine, and your engine will get fat all of a sudden, and that means that it's broken in, and you will have to lean it out just a little bit to get it back up. So if you get your engine broken in and it's running good for, you know, half a gallon, maybe even a gallon, and all of a sudden in the middle of a race it just goes and it's like running really rich, that's because it's finally broken in. That's when you can lean it out and start putting that high performance tune in it. So first heat cycle done, the initial startup is done, which scared the crap out of me. And that's how you break an engine, guys. I'll probably do a couple of more, I probably won't do the heat cycles. I'm going to do 3 more heat cycles. I'm not going to do them on the vlog because you guys know how to do it. You just start it up, get it up to, honestly, I'm getting to about 220 on the heat box, or on the heat gun on the box, with the heat gun on the box. So I'm getting about 220. That's giving me enough time, it loosens up the piston just enough for me to be able to start it. And then I get the engine up, actually running engine temp up to 260, and let it cool down. Do that 4 times, and after 4 times, I'm good. So that's an engine breaking video, guys. If you like this, guys, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell, and you guys will see me next time. Later, guys.